Hi, thank you for watching Digging to China. I'm Dongxiong. The Taiwanese economy grew 2.98% in 2020 compared to a year ago, according to advanced estimates by Taiwan's Statistics Office. It unexpectedly became Asia's top-performing economy last year and outgrew China for the first time in 30 years. Last time Taiwan's expansion was higher than mainland China is 1990. It came as a strong global demand for the island's tech exports outweighed the hit from the COVID-19 pandemic. Taiwan's strength in exports in the second half of last year, particularly of semiconductors, helped the economy to easily offset any drags from the pandemic. It has also had a relative success in containing the spread of COVID-19, allowing its economy to avoid a strict lockdown experienced by others globally. As of January 31st, the island reported 911 confirmed infections and 8 deaths, according to the Taiwan Centers for Disease Control. Taiwan is a powerhouse in the production of semiconductors, which are important components powering products from cars to computers and mobile phones. Demand for chips surged globally when the pandemic forced people to spend more time indoors, as the lockdowns triggered an uptick in sales of consumer electronics such as laptops. Economists at research firm TSMC estimated that Taiwan and South Korea account for 83% of global processor chip production and 70% of memory chip output, which means the two East Asian economies have a near monopoly status in both segments of the industry. That dominance would allow Taiwan and South Korea to leverage their increased strategic importance for economic and political gains from the US and China, their two largest customers, the economist said. Taiwan and Korea are on the front line of the US-China confrontation, reliant on China for growth but on the US as a guarantor of national security. For Taiwan, such wins have included weapons sales from the US and the lack of economic pressure from China, said TSMC economists. In the near term, China could become more reliant on Taiwan for semiconductors as it cuts out US suppliers. Beijing aims to become self-reliant over the long term as tensions with the US grow. But some analysts said China's ability to do so are still far behind. TSMC's shares in Taiwan jumped 60% last year when the coronavirus spread globally. The shares have continued to climb this year, rising by 11.5% in January from last year's close. In the meantime, Taiwanese Coast Guard Commander Lin Chi-ming is on the front line of a new type of warfare that China is waging against Taiwan. China's weapon? Sand. On a chilly morning in late January, Lin stood on the rolling deck of his boat as it patrolled in choppy waters of the Taiwan-run Matsu Islands. He was on the lookout for Chinese sand-dredging ships encroaching on waters controlled by Taiwan. The Chinese goal, according to Taiwanese officials, is to pressure Taiwan by tying down the island democracy's naval defense and undermining the livelihood of Matsu residents. Half an hour into the patrol, Lin's 9-man crew spotted two 3,000-ton dredgers, dwarfing their 100-ton vessel, parked just outside Taiwan's waters. Neither of the dredgers clearly displayed their names, making it difficult for a crew member to identify them as he peered through binoculars. Upon spotting Lin's boat armed with 2 water cannons and a machine gun, the dredgers quickly pulled up anchor and headed back toward the Chinese coast. The sand dredging is one weapon China is using against Taiwan in a campaign of so-called gray zone warfare, which entails using irregular tactics to exhaust a foe without actually resorting to open combat. Since June last year, Chinese dredgers have been swarming around the Matsu Islands, dropping anchor and scooping up vast amounts of sand from the ocean bed for construction projects in China. The ploy is taxing for Taiwan's civilian-run Coast Guard administration, which is now conducting round-the-clock patrols in an effort to repel the Chinese vessels. Taiwanese officials and Matsu residents say the dredging forays have had other corrosive impacts, disrupting the local economy, damaging undersea communication cables, and intimidating residents and tourists to the island. Local officials also fear that the dredging is destroying marine life nearby. Besides Matsu, China has also been dredging in the shallow waters near the median line of the Taiwan Strait, which has long served as an unofficial buffer separating China and Taiwan. Last year, Taiwan expelled nearly 4,000 Chinese sand dredgers and sand transporting vessels from waters under its control, most of them in the area close to the median line, according to Taiwan's Coast Guard. That's a 560% jump over the 600 Chinese vessels that were repelled in all of 2019. Sand is just part of the gray zone campaign. China has been using other irregular tactics to wear down the island of 23 million. The most dramatic. In recent months, the People's Liberation Army, China's military, has been dispatching warplanes in menacing forays toward the island. Taiwan has been scrambling military aircraft on an almost daily basis to head off the threat, placing an enormous burden on its air force. Taiwanese military officials and Western analysts said China's gray zone tactics are meant to drain the resources and erode the will of the island's armed forces, and make such harassment so routine that the world grows inured to it. China's Taiwan Affairs Office said in a statement to Reuters that Taiwan's claim that Beijing is allowing sand dredging boats to engage in illegal operations near Matsu and the median line are baseless. The office did say it has taken steps to stop illegal sand dredging without elaborating. The Matsu Islands are almost an hour by plane from Taipei. They are one of a handful of island groups close to China's coast that Taiwan has governed since 1949. The Matsu, Ing-wen, and the Pratas Island groups lie several hundred kilometers from mainland Taiwan. Their isolation and their much reduced Taiwanese military presence since the end of the Cold War would make them highly vulnerable to a Chinese attack. Matsu is just 9 kilometers from the Chinese coastline at the closest point. The island has a total of just 9 Coast Guard ships ranging from 10 to 100 tons. On some days, government officials said the Coast Guard has faced hundreds of Chinese vessels ranging in size from 1,000 to 3,000 tons in and around the island's waters. Taiwan says those waters extend 6 kilometers out from the coastline here. China doesn't officially recognize any claims of sovereignty by Taiwan. In some standoffs, Taiwan's Coast Guard has sprayed high-power water cannons at the Chinese ships in an attempt to drive them away. Last year, Taiwan impounded 4 Chinese vessels and detained 37 crew members, according to the Coast Guard. 10 of those arrested were given sentences of 6 to 7 months in prison. The others are still on trial, the Coast Guard said. Taiwan is in the process of beefing up its Coast Guard, partly in response to the dredging threat. Last year, President Tsai Ing-wen commissioned into service the first of a new class of Coast Guard vessel, based on the design of an aircraft carrier killer, a missile boat for the Navy. More than 100 new Coast Guard boats will be built in the next decades, Tsai said in December, vowing to enforce a crackdown with no mercy on Chinese dredging in Taiwan waters. In the meantime, larger patrol boats were sent to temporarily reinforce the Coast Guard in Matsu, whose 117 members are now conducting 24-hour patrols. The number of sand dredgers off the coast of Matsu dropped significantly at the end of last year as winter weather brought rougher seas that make dredging difficult. When the seasons change and the seas are calmer, local residents fear that the dredgers will be back. Thank you for watching. Please leave a comment and subscribe to my channel. Just click the subscribe button right here. I'll see you again shortly.